Welcome to Ionic tutorial. I'm Jayesh Lahare. This is video number 22. In this session we will learn about creating model class, classes, interfaces, base class and super classes using Ionic framework. Although Ionic uses TypeScript and it provides some basic features or you can say the OOPS concept, but it do not provide OOPS concept completely as Java provides it because there are certain limitations. So in today's session we will see that how to create bean or Pojo classes which are sometime which requires to create and pass that object of that class from one page to another. So in this session we will learn about different applications of classes, interface and model class. So let's create the project. So let's create new project. Ionic start, model test. I will use blank template. So far we have seen that how to use different plugins and different classes, but we have not added any our own class or interface. So in today's session we will see that how to create our own class and how to create our own interface and how to use them. Okay, it looks like our project is created. Now let's go inside our project directory. Let's hit the Ionic serve command so that it will show us UI at the same time while we are changing in our code. So meanwhile it's running, so let's open the source code. Okay, here is the project model test. Now let's go to src, then pages. So basically first we will see that what are the model classes. So you might have heard, like if you are a Java developer, then you might heard about Pojo classes, which are plain or old Java object classes or object which do not serve any special purpose, but these classes are having some properties like name, address, age, gender and etc. And also they are having getter and setter methods for these properties. So we'll in today's session we will learn that how we can achieve that kind of functionality. So let's create the Pojo class. So for that you can see that this is the structure of our Ionic application in which src and www directories are there. So to create the directories, like in Java you are about to create the packages. So in Ionic to create the Pojo or a model class, we will create one directory again in src. So right click over here and create a folder, and I will call it Pojo. Pojo is just a plain object Java, a plain old Java object. So in this directory I will create my first class, which is employee. So right click over it and click on new file. So let's give it a name, employee dot, and always remember the extension. The extension should be TypeScript, which is ts file. Press enter. So this is our employee.ts file. Now in this TS file we want to implement certain properties and certain getter and setters. So to create the model class you have to write the code like this: export space class and class name. So our class name is this one. Make sure that this file name and this class name should match with each other. So employee, and here we go. This is our model class. So in model class we are going to provide certain properties like name and string. So just like Java, in Ionic uses TypeScript for it's a business logic, and TypeScript in the end converted into the JavaScript. So in JavaScript or TypeScript there are you can implement the OOPS concept, but not completely. Like you cannot create constructor with you cannot create multiple constructor. There is only one single constructor you can create in your model class. So these are the properties. Name, let's take example of one more property, gender, string. So here you can see that I have created two two data members of this class, name and gender. So just like Java, there is an access specifier. Like these two properties, name and genders, are by default private. So it means that these two properties directly cannot be accessed by other classes. So for that you can specify access specifiers, like if I specify it public means other classes other than employee can access this name property, but it cannot access gender property because gender property is private. So public and private you can use according to your convenience in your code. So right now I will just delete this one. So for now let's keep it default. And also constructor. So in class you have to create the constructor. Either it can be blank or you can create constructor with certain properties. So I will keep it blank. Just like a Java, you cannot create multiple constructors. For example, this is constructor 1 and this is constructor 2, and if I try to create two constructor, let's say this one, and I save it, then it will tell me multiple constructor not allowed. You can see the error. So it's up to you whether you want to implement blank constructor or a constructor with certain parameters. So it's up to your requirement. So in our today's session I will just use the blank constructor, but constructor is required. And these are two properties. So for these two properties I will provide some getter and setter methods. Getter method are those methods which provide the value of this property. So first let's create the setter. So set name, and over here this dot name equal to name. So this is our setter property. So for name, getter is get name. This is another method, and it will simply return this dot name. So here you can see that I have created two getter and setter for name property. Now it's time to create getter setter for gender. So again same, set gender, so setter is always prefixed with set, set prefix, and getter property or method is prefixed with get. Get gender, return this dot gender. And apart from this, if you want to give any other method in Pojo object or Pojo class, it's up to you, because these classes are only created because it might possible in your application you wants to store certain value in object of a class, and that object should be is going to share with another class, and that class will access all the properties like name and gender of that object. So in that situation you can use this kind of Pojo classes. So let's create one more method, toString, which generally comes in Java. So here we are creating manually. So here I will simply call return. First I will call this dot name, and let's add comma, and this dot gender. So we have created this employee class. Now initially, like in our application, we do not require any UI, but definitely we need to show something, like we need to debug that whether our Pojo class is working or not. So for that, let's create a very basic UI. Just call inspect and go to console, erase everything. Now let's open our editor and let's delete this template. So go to pages, and in home.html let's delete everything. So UI is not required, we can take the help of console for now. So we can do one thing, go to home.ts file, and over here in constructor is the first method which executes. So over here I will create object of our employee class. So to create the employee class object, the syntax is let e equal to new employee. That's it. So here you can see that as I created this employee, it automatically imported from this location, which is Pojo and employee class. So you might be aware that we was creating object or variables like this, let p of promise type or something, and that was the way it was working. But in model class we have to use this syntax equal to and new. So this way it will create the object of our class. So we will use this syntax. So for now let's skip it and let's concentrate on this one only. So over here we have created the object of employee class, and employee class we have created setter and getter. So let's set the value e dot set name, I will call it Jayesh, and e dot set gender, I will call it male, and let's print this value console dot log. So in console dot log it will print over here. So console dot log, I will call it data is, and over here I will call one method which is e.toString, which we have created earlier, this one toString method, which is returning me all these two properties. So over here go to console.log and over here print e.toString, and here we go, and save all. So it will print, it should print those two values over here. So it's loading. Okay, here you can see that data is Jayesh male. So we have implemented our Pojo class or being class or model class, whatever you say, and we have seen the example that how to use setter and getter. Now in employee.ts you have seen over here, like when I press e dot, it's showing me gender and name, which is public by default. So if you go to the class and over here if you specify the access specifier like private, and if you save it, like the name is private and gender is public right now. So if you go to home.ts and if I press e dot list, so you can see that it's showing me only gender, not the name, but it's showing me it's getter and setters. So we have restricted our name property or name data member with access specifier which is private. Private means only class can access, but other than class nobody can access this data member directly. So if you want to restrict your data, if you want to hide, or you want to provide some sort of isolation, then use private, or you can go with the public. So I will go with public. Let's delete it. So we have seen that how to create model class. Now let's see the example of base class and super class. So this is just one example of model class. So our class was employee and its structure was like this. Now let's create one class which will extend or acquire the property of employee class. So in that case we have to create another class. Let's create another class in Pojo, and I will call it, let's call it engineers.ts. So engineers is a class which will acquire the property of this employee class, this one. So for that, again, let's write the basic structure of engineers class. So for that, write export and class name engineers. So this is the basic structure. Now we want to extend a class which is employee. So in that case, you can write extends employee and it will import everything automatically. So we have extended this class. Now always remember one thing: when you are extending this class, you have to create constructor and you have to call its default constructor. So for engineer class, I will create again a blank constructor. So it's giving me error because it's saying constructor for derived class must contain a super. It's saying me when this constructor is invoked, I have to invoke super class or parent class constructor also. So in that case, always use super. So this way this line will execute employee class constructor. So now let's create a data member. Let's call it language. I will use type as a string, and for this language you can let's provide getter and setters. Set language, this dot language equal to lang, and getter method, of course, get language, return this dot language. So here you can see that when I'm writing these lines, when I press this dot, it's showing me name and gender. So name and gender, and also the setter properties of my super class. So these members gender and name is not available in this class, but these two members are available in our employee class. So it's acquiring its properties, all the properties. So engineer class having the power of, you can say that, having the power of employee also. So if you want to customize or you want to add more features to any other class, then extend that class, and in that class you can add a number of approaches or number of business items. So we have created getter and setter. Now you can override its methods also, like in Java, like if super class or parent class is having certain method, like a toString method is there which is returning this name and gender. So in engineers class you can override that method, and over here you can use return. Let's call our parent class super toString method. So for that, always use super dot toString. So this will return toString method from my employee class, this one. So this method will execute and return only these two parameters. So it will return these two. So over here now let's print language also. So this dot language, so language will be returned. So now let's see its example. Let's see how it works. So let's clear it. Let's go to class and let's go to our home.ts file where we have written our logic. So over here we have seen that how to execute this employee class. Now let's see how to create the object of engineer class. So over here let's create another object which is of type engineers. So for that, let's create eng equal to new engineers, and in engineer class, this dot, you can see that I have these three methods: set gender, set language, and set name. So this set name and set gender method belongs to parent class, and set language belongs to child class, which is engineers. But by extending, I'm acquiring the property of my superclass. So over here, let's set all the properties. Albert eng dot set gender male, eng dot set language is English, and here we go. Now let's print its data. So for that, I will take the help of console dot log, and over here let's say engineers data here eng dot toString. So toString will return me data from all these three properties. Let's save it. So when I'll save it, it should print these two lines, data is and engineers. Oops. Okay, it's giving some problem, so let's troubleshoot that. What's the problem? So it's giving problem at engineer.ts line number 3. So let's see what's the problem. Let's go to code. Let's save it, save all. It might possible some classes are left. So I don't see any problem, but this might be an issue of a caching of a browser. So if you face this kind of errors, like code is written perfectly and this kind of errors is coming, so you can do one thing. Let's terminate the Ionic serve command and start it again. I don't know what's the problem with this Ionic framework. So sometime you have to restart your command and check whether it's working properly, because the code is written perfectly fine and it's okay, but it's giving some troubles. So let's restart the Ionic serve command. Okay, it looks like app is loading. So let's close this old instance and let's right click and inspect the element so that we can see the old logs over console. Let's go to console, and over here you can see that it's printing data. So let's show it again from the beginning. So for that, I will just refresh the page. And here we go. It's printing my superclass data, then base class data, and we have implemented our super or child or parent class relation. So this way you can implement the model class or Pojo classes, and also you can extend the behavior of the parent class. Now let's see the example of interface, like how you can create the interface in Java or TypeScript. So if you are a Java guy, then you might be aware that why interfaces are used. Like interfaces are just like a placeholder in which you can keep the object of a different classes which are implementing same interface. So it might be difficult to understand the definition of interface. So let's create the interface and let's see the example. So we have learned that how to create model class and its implementation. Now let's create interface. So in code, I always write to code in a clean way. So for that, let's create new directory called interfaces. So in this directory, I will create all the interfaces which I required, and the code will look little bit manageable and clean. So over here let's create interface called holders dot ts, and over here again, like if you want to create the interface, then syntax is export, and earlier we was writing class, but this time we are creating interface, so we will create interface space and interface name. So we have created interface. Now in this interface let's create some properties. Let's say name of type string and green card of type boolean, whether this guy holding green card. So and one more method, let's call one method display. So interfaces are just like a object, or you can say the component in which you can create properties like name and green card and method, but methods should not be having complete structure or it's a body signature. So you can see that over here I have created method, but this method is not having its implementation. So I just created method name, and in the last I just put the semicolon. So this is the holder interface. Now let's see how we can use this interface in our code. So for that there are two ways to use the interface in TypeScript. Like one way is directly you can use interface. So go to your we have created this interface. Now let's go to our home.ts file where we testing our business logic. So the one way is like you can create the object like holder of type interface, which is holder again, and over here you can write holder equal to, and in semicolon let's provide all the methods. So over here you have provide all the method. What it's saying, you can see the error. It's saying is not assignable to type holder, property name is missing in type. So for that, create name and give some name, let's say John. Then now the error should be changed. If you see that it's saying property green card is missing in type, second line. So you can see the second line in error. So let's create another property which is green card and true. Now it should change the error. Now it's saying, you can see the second line, it's saying property display is missing in type, name and green card. So we have to create display property. So for that you have to create display, and over here now you have to give the complete implementation. So in display, let's say console.log from interface, and over here you can print let's say name, and so first let's see whether it's working or not. So we have created these interface. So this is the one approach through which you can take the help of interface, and now over here you can print console.log, and over here let's say interface details, and over here I will simply call holder dot name, and let's provide some comma, and holder dot green card, and in the last I will call holder dot display. So display is a method, so let's save it. So you can see that now it's printing John, true, and display. So basically it's saying undefined because display is a method and we are trying to print it in console.log. So that's not the good way. So for that, just cut this line and over here print, you can call it separately. So you can see that now it's printing from interface. This line is coming from this one, and these all two details, John and true, green card true, is printed in console.log. So inside the interface, if you want to access these two properties in display class, then definitely you can take the help of this dot name. Let's give some space, and this dot green card, and save it. So when I save it, over here at console it should print this from interface and two values. So it's saying from interface John and true. So we are able to print it successfully with the help of interface. So you have seen the example of first approach of implementing the interface in TypeScript or Ionic. So now let's implement the another approach in which how to implement the interface in class. So for that, let's create two different classes, model classes. So we have created interface. Now let's create another class which is visa holder .ts, and in visa holder let's implement that interface. So visa holder is our class, so I will create export class and class name visa holders and implements and the interface name holder. So this will automatically import in my Visual Studio Code editor. Now it's saying me the class visa holder incorrectly implement interface holder property name is missing in type visa holder. Okay, so as you implement the holder, you have to integrate or implement its properties also. So let's create first property. Now it should say property green card is missing. Okay, so let's create green card also. So we are overriding all the properties and methods of that holder interface. Now it's saying property display is missing in type visa. Okay, so for that let's override this display method, and in display let's print it console.log. Over here I will print visa holders, and over here let's print this dot name and this dot green card. So we have implemented this. Now it's saying me there should be, let's save it first. Now it's saying, okay, it's saying me green card is incompatible because in our interface green card property is boolean type, and over here we have used as string, so that's not acceptable. So in that case you have to use the same data type which we are using in interface. So we have used just replaced with boolean, and here we go. So we have implemented this visa class, visa holder class. So how to use this now? So for that, go to your home.ts file where we are checking all these implementation. So go to pages and home.ts file, and let's comment everything because you know this will print a lot of logs. So for this, now for now I will just comment all these lines, and let's check interface only. So let's create object of visa class. So I will create visa equal to new visa holders, and over here let's pass some visa dot name equal to Kimberly, visa dot green card equal to true, and here we go. So if I print it, let's say visa dot display, so display will call its console.log method and it will print over here. So let's save it and let's see whether it's print the class or not. Okay, so it's saying visa holder Kimberly true. So we have implemented this interface in visa holder, but what is the purpose of interface then? Because this can be achieved with the help of normal model class also. So the beauty is you can create let's say interface equal to not equal to of holder, and in this enter object or holder type of object you can hold the object of your visa class. So here you can see that in object I can assign the object of visa class, and it is only possible when visa holder class implementing this interface. And over here if I print enter dot display and if I save it, then it will print these two values Kimberly and true 2 times. So let's see whether it works or not. So here you can see that it's printing 2 times. So with the help of interface we have achieved loose coupling feature of a Java and Ionic framework. So with the help of interface you can implement multiple methods, multiple classes which are implementing this interface. So let's take another example, like visa holder is a class which is implementing this holder class. Now let's create one more class which is green card.ts. and let's complete the complete signature. Green card implements holder. Okay, it's saying cannot find holder, so let's copy this and okay, it's a holders, not holder. Okay, it's saying name cannot find name holder. So let's create all the properties. Name of string, okay, it's not holders, it's a holder. Okay, now it's saying green card. Okay, let's implement the green card also of boolean type. And over here let's create one more property string, and let's override display method, and over here let's print everything. Console.log green card. This dot name, this dot green card, this dot country. So we have created another class with extra property which is country. Now let's see how we can implement this class. So go to home.ts file, and over here let's create another object of a class. Let's say green equal to new green card. Green dot name equal to Alfonso. Green dot green card equal to true. Green dot country equal to USA. And when I call green dot display, it should print all these values. So let's save it and let's see whether it's able to print everything on console or not. It's loading, it will take a time. Okay, there are some errors. Let's see what is the error. It's saying on home page 24 there are some problem with visa holders. So earlier it was working fine, now it's giving problem. So again there might be problem with the cache. So in that case, let's close this or terminate this Ionic serve command, and let's restart it again. Okay, the problem, it looks like the interface which we have created is holders.ts, and the file name is holders.ts, and interface name we have given is holder. So that should be a problem. So in that case, it's a holder and holders. So we have created two classes, which is visa holder and green card, but we have not created constructors. So in that case, let's provide some blank constructor. I will copy this one and I will use, or I will create the same constructor in green card also. Now let's see if error removes. Okay, it looks like it's showing now. So we have implemented the green card and visa holder card with the help of interface. So this was the example that how you can create different interfaces, base class and super class. So over here you have seen that we have two classes, visa holder and green card, which is implementing the same interface, which is holder. And in this object enter, you can hold the object of enter equal to green also. So and enter equal to visa also. So here you can see that it's not giving me any error, because these two classes, green card and visa, is implementing the same interface. So in the object of interface, you can hold the object of any class, green card or visa holder. So that's the beauty of using the interface. And you can use this kind of interface in your application where loose coupling is required, or you're providing some sort of implementation where loose coupling or some sort of patterns are required. So you can implement this and you can play with it. So in today's session we have learned that how to create interface, and how to create base class and super classes, and how to implement them, and what are the access specifiers. So if you have any query or any comment, then you can definitely write to my videos, and there are number of videos are in queue which are incoming in future. So for more relevant more updates and notifications, you can subscribe to my channel so that you will see that what are the new topics. And again, if you have any feedback, then most welcome. Thanks for watching. Bye bye, have a nice day.